I think you're a little bit tired and sleepy after lunch. Yes? How many of you are not feeling sleepy? Can you raise your hands? Wow! And how many of you feeling sleepy? So the arithmetic difference between these raised hands are people who are sleeping. Okay, my name is Roman Savickas. Today I will moderate this session. We have 4 nice participants, speakers, and today you heard 1,000 times where it can be no energy transition without sustainable cities. But can we be sustainable cities without district heating energy? Is the technology nice to have or fundamental building block? So, talking as the CEO of Walt Disney, Bob Iger company said, the riskiest thing is just to maintain the status quo, existing system, existing state. So, this session will look at the role of district heating in delivering the energy transition in cities, taking lessons from past, the present, and future. We'll take an innovate view, and we'll try to think out of the box. Are you agree to think out of the box? How many of you agree? Can you? Yes, but if everybody think out of a box, maybe something wrong with that box? Okay, let's go to speakers. Today, I'm not the rock star. Rock stars are our speakers. So, speakers, please do not forget to take 60 seconds, like you heard in Monday sessions, to relax. And of course, don't forget that these 60 seconds are from your 15 minutes. Okay, first our speaker will be Gavin Slater. Gavin Slater is from Glasgow City Council. He is developing the district heating, renewable energy and smart energy strategies for Glasgow, whilst ensuring Glasgow City Council meets its sustainable Glasgow and carbon reduction targets of 30% by 2020 and its commitments set out in its energy and carbon master plan for Glasgow. So our first presenter will be Gavin Slater, and welcome on board.
Okay, thanks very much. Yeah, so I get home field advantage, I guess, being the local boy, and I get to go first. There's been a lot of discussion about heat today, naturally, this is what it's about, and about waste heat, and to prove the point, I want to show you how much heat we waste and how much we generate. So can everyone stand up and run up the stairs as fast as you can? No? Okay, fair enough. So yeah, let's have a look at Glasgow's district heating ambition. I want to go through a number of projects that we're developing, have developed, are progressing in the city. It's a bit of a whistle-stop tour. It's not the kind of trip to Glasgow you get in the tourist guide, but hopefully it will be enlightening in some way for you. So I noticed earlier on that a lot of you here today are not actually Scottish. So I will accept if anyone wants to put their hand up and tell me to slow down, because we talk very, very fast. I'll do my best to keep it slow. So, as was mentioned in the introduction, for a bit of context, in Glasgow we have our Energy and Carbon Master Plan. Now, the Energy and Carbon Master Plan is a document that sets out our targets and strategies to achieve our carbon reduction targets. It was based on the original Sustainable Glasgow strategy, which we implemented in 2010. In 2010, this strategy was written, and it was a very aspirational strategy to reach a target by 2020 by doing everything and anything that we possibly could. What we realised is that through our adhesion to the Covenant of Mayors and our submission of the plan as our Sustainable Energy Action Plan, that actually a lot of what was in it, while admirable, wasn't really achievable. So we joined a project with the European Union called Step Up, which was Strategies Towards Energy Performance in Urban Planning. And we rewrote the strategy, enhanced it, and developed this Energy and Carbon Master Plan. So within that, we had a target for the year 2020 to reduce our carbon emissions by 30%. Now, just to give you an idea of where we are, the way that carbon emissions on a city level are collected in the UK, they're always 2 years in arrears. This is the time that it takes to collect all of the various information from buildings, transport, generation, everything else to understand the carbon position. So last year our figures were for 2014, and in 2014 we had already achieved a 27% reduction in our carbon emissions. So we are well on our way to hitting that target, although I'm very cautious and careful to say to everyone that we won't get there if we start to lean back and rest on our laurels. So although we've made good progress, there's still a long way to go. Within that plan, there were 33 actions, each detailing how we would approach, both strategically and technically, achieving these targets. Amongst those actions, one of which was to phase out coal and oil and older inefficient electric heating in Glasgow. Glasgow has the unenviable record of having a lot of fuel poverty, which for us is the situation where more than 10% of your earnings are spent on your utility bills. So in a very real sense, the people of Glasgow, at least 1/3 of the people of Glasgow, have to choose between heating and eating, which is not a situation that we as a council believe we can accept. A lot of this comes from expensive and inefficient heating systems. Another action was to develop a number of coordinated district heating schemes in the city. This would be expanding out from installed schemes and covering a mixture of installations to commercial and residential premises. Unfortunately, I've not been able to be here for the whole conference, but I'm sure there's been discussions about the need for that kind of mixture of building types to make district heating successful. So if we look at this map, this is Glasgow. I don't think I've got a pointer on this, but on the sort of left-hand side there, you can see of the river, that's roughly where we are. And across the city, you will see that there's a variety of different initiatives and projects that have been developed to different lengths across the city. And all of these are centred around district heating and our aspirations to reduce fuel poverty. To date, our ambitions have been largely anchored in gas combined heat and power engines. But as I'll show you, and as you should have heard through the progress of the conference, we are now developing more innovative ways to capture heat. So in 2014, Glasgow City was selected to host the Commonwealth Games. And as part of that, our commitment was to create a village for the athletes to stay in for the duration of the Games. What you're seeing here is the athletes' village. All of these houses were used for the athletes during the period of the Games. The large grey building in the sort of mid-ground was created as well for the Games. That's our sports arena and velodrome. Within this village, there are 700 homes, all of which are connected to district heating. The sports arena as well is also connected to that. Now, while this is a huge success with 700 homes, they've now transferred, people live there. Half of them are socially rented, half of them are private sale. In the rear of the picture, you can see Celtic football ground. Now, a huge opportunity there for the sale of heat as well as the sale of power from the CHP engines, but one that we didn't actually capture. So while this is a success for Glasgow, it's also a bit of a missed opportunity. And within this area of the city, there's a lot of poverty, and there's a lot of more opportunity to expand this district heating system. And we are looking at another 300 houses, a primary school and a nursery school. Another major development that's going on in Glasgow is the creation of a £154 million energy from waste plant in the city. This is going to take 90% of our landfill waste away from landfill for processing to create renewable energy and heat. And if the picture will convince you, it's also one of the most romantic locations to go for a walk in Glasgow. I don't know what the artist was thinking. So there's a huge opportunity there to capture the heat that's been generated, and we've done a lot of work at looking at the potential for where that heat can go. The red line in this diagram shows you the potential heat mapping route, the pipework, and the various different anchor loads that we can look at. So you have Hampden Stadium at the bottom there, the National Football Stadium, some housing association, high-rise flats, shops. What's actually happened though, as well there's some great opportunities here, the time that it's taken to develop the plant and then to develop the energy centre and the associated district heating means that we've actually lost a major opportunity to connect up this new housing development, and in that time we've put gas in instead. This is a real problem. I think in the UK and in Glasgow we're trying to make very different planning aspirations line up timing-wise, means that project opportunities are quite often lost. This is another part of the city that was seen as a satellite network. The aspiration was to take the heat from the energy to waste plant and move it towards the city centre. This satellite network was supposed to be built in advance and then connected at a later date. Unfortunately, we couldn't financially make this add up. Now, one of the recurring themes that I face in my daily life is that in the UK and Scotland, the way that rates are applied to district heating, business rates, is punitive for district heating. So if you put gas installations in, the rates are infinitesimally smaller than if you put in district heating. So gas installations are rated on their utility value. District heating is rated on its construction value. Now, we all know how expensive and laborious district heating installations are, so the rates that come with them make the heat difficult to make it compete with gas. This network never happened, but what I'm pleased to say that you will have heard about probably earlier on is that we're now building an energy plant on the River Clyde, putting water source heat pumps in there and recovering heat from the River Clyde. So we're effectively replicating work that we've seen done by a local company, Star Renewables, in Norway and Drammen. So we'll take the water out of that and we'll take that heat through various stages of a heat pump, get it up to the grade that we want it at, and then provide heat, not blow up, but we'll provide heat to the Adelphi Centre, which is a business centre, a leisure centre, and this large housing development as well. Now you can imagine, if you think back to the wider picture, the length of the River Clyde, how many opportunities this as a pilot project will give us. We also have a district heating system in the north of the city called the Wynford Estate. This is a very large, for us certainly large, district heating network. It's 1,700 homes that are connected, socially rented homes, plus another 200 or so homes that have elected to connect themselves. This is a fantastic network. It does what it needs to do. It provides low-cost heat through gas CHP engines. But this provides yet another example of some of the difficulties we face, in that this was a heavily impoverished area. Very, very poor. And when they were promised this district heating, they were promised heat that was going to be so cheap they couldn't believe it. Now, this was an area where people just didn't have their heating on. They couldn't afford it. So when this lower cost heat went in, they got heat, but it was still more expensive than they were used to because they weren't paying anything. So even if it was low cost, it was still more expensive for them. Now, a very vocal minority then started to complain about that and gave district heating quite a difficult image in the city. So through an extensive period of communication and education, we've made people understand how to best make that system work, and it's more successful now. But I think that's an important message for us, certainly, is that the way that these things are communicated and the education piece and the behavioural piece is quite extensive. The University of Glasgow is a very historic university, large campus, which now has moved from a steam heating system onto gas CHP district heating. Every building that you see in red is now connected to district heating. This is, for us, an enormously successful story because what it does in Glasgow is show that you can retrofit district heating to listed buildings. Historically difficult buildings to work with in an energy context and buildings that we have a huge amount of. The area in blue is the next stage for their connections of district heating. Next door to that, we have the Kelvin Grove Art Gallery. Again, another listed building, another very historic building, another building that's difficult to manage from an energy perspective. We are going to recover heat with our partners in Scottish Water Horizons and Shark Energy from the sewage network that runs underneath the museum and use that to heat and provide hot water to the museum. Now again, this is a huge example of what's achievable in a city like Glasgow, because effectively that heat network is already in the ground. We just need to tap into it and get the heat out of it. Another project that we're looking at that's quite innovative in the south of the city is using air source heat pumps to capture heat from the air and use that combined with solar thermal to provide heat to some socially rented housing as well. And finally, I think in the Clyde Gateway area, we're looking at other opportunities to recover heat from sewage, provide heat to business parks, and actually boost economic growth through the provision of low-cost, low-carbon energy. We spent a lot of time working on an area called City Centre North in North Glasgow. Within that, we had identified 9 different areas for district heating and went to great technical depth to look at each of these areas, where the network would go, who would be connected, what kind of project it would be. All of the ones that you see in the top of the screen are now in some form of stasis. They're not working, or they're just completely dead, through various different things, but most likely through cost. There was some mention earlier on about the cost of capital and bringing the cost of capital down. That would have helped us enormously in getting some of these networks off the ground. In the city centre, we had a number of networks here that were planned, and of those, only 2 at the moment look viable. And those 2 networks have been the basis upon the construction of a bid for Horizon 2020 money. So we successfully funded by Horizon 2020 in a project called Ruggedized, which stands for Rotterdam, Umeå, Glasgow Generating Exemplar Demonstrations in Sustainable Energy Districts. And I did win a bottle of wine for coming up with that. Within that, you have district heating in the University of Strathclyde, and below that you have our council headquarters. So very historic city centre, city chambers complex. Again, quite energy intensive and difficult to deal with. What we are looking at is not the technical way in which to provide heat from the district heating network into that building, but instead it's the building model, the business model, excuse me. This is not something that we are used to. We don't have regulation on this in this country. We don't have companies that are doing this as normal. This is something that the local authority thinks that maybe it should be involved in, but isn't quite sure how. So we need to look at what the business model is that ensures we can have a regulated, to some extent, relationship, be that through a contractual relationship or an ESCO. Equally, on the other side, we have Tennant's Brewery, which through their production has waste heat, which would like to give or sell to the neighbouring housing association. So I'm rapidly running out of time. The project also includes a number of renewable energy projects, smart energy systems, wireless communication, data, and a very sophisticated degree of integration between all those points, which I can't possibly go into detail in 35 seconds. However, one thing I did mention was the ESCO, what the ESCO could mean, an energy services company, about the management of all these stakeholders, the management, potentially ownership of a heat distribution network, the facilitation of district heating in the city, and the utilisation of all this innovation to deliver the benefits that we need for affordable warmth, the opposite of fuel poverty, to generate surpluses which are reinvested, to basically do all the things that I've heard you and your wonderful cities do for the people that you have. And that is me bang out of time. Thank you very much.
Do you have questions? Yes.
If I was king of the country, there's probably a few other things I would do first. I said I was going to bang on about it, and I am. The lack of parity that's apparent in this country when you consider district heating is not seen as a utility and is charged based on its construction costs. It's killing projects. It's making it very difficult to finance these projects. So I would immediately rectify that. If I was king, I would just not charge rates probably, but that I wouldn't get away. I wouldn't be king for long. But yeah, I think the rates would have to be equal. It would have to be treated as a utility. And I think we would look at how we could source more capital at a lower cost and look to educate this country in longer-term investments in the energy infrastructure, having a longer-term 40-year view on these things.
Thanks. Once more. Okay, I would like to ask Slater, do you think it is necessary for Glasgow to own the district heating infrastructure and generation assets as it is developed in the city?
No, I don't see it as being crucial. I think I've been fortunate enough to get around a lot of Europe and see a lot of different systems and the growth of countries. What we don't have, and what was mentioned in an earlier session I was in, is we don't necessarily have the impending disaster that would motivate rapid change. We don't have that threat, or it's not perceived that we have that threat. And where I've seen these things be successful, it's through sustained and gradual growth. Not slow growth, but gradual. And if you look at places like Aberdeen in Scotland, they've had a great deal of success with district heating through growth and slow growth. So I think we have to facilitate and promote anyone who wants to create infrastructure, create assets that are going to generate heat, provided that we can work with them in a way that's not going to turn that into a profit generator. Now, the margins on district heating don't allow for massive profit to be made, but I don't think we need to own everything or control everything. I think we need to facilitate growth. And at some point, if we need to be the owner of last resort or to come in and help, then that's what we would need to do. But I think we have to encourage as much as possible disruption in the energy market and as much growth and as much involvement from external parties as possible.
Okay. You mentioned that the application of business rates has hampered development of district heating in the city. What is being done about this?
Yeah, so I did say I would bang that drum, and we have been lobbying the Scottish Government extremely hard about this. Glasgow's seen, rightly or wrongly, as a very forward-thinking city in terms of sustainability, in terms of energy, and that gives us a certain amount of clout. And we have got to the position now where we have spent a lot of time devising, developing strategies, working with partners to secure investable projects that haven't got off the ground, or when they have got off the ground, they've come against hardship because of this rates position. And we've started to speak with the government and tell them that in no uncertain terms, district heating won't be a success in Glasgow if they don't ameliorate this issue, if they don't do something about it. So we were pleased to welcome the 50% reduction in the rates, which is a 12-month reduction. But unless that's followed up with a re-evaluation of the rate system so that it's treated the same as a gas network. I mean, to make it clear, if you were in a house that's connected by gas, you would pay pounds for your rent, for your rates. If you're connected to district heating, you're over £100 for those rates. So the magnitude is that big. And it's something that we can't bear, and it's something that we can't also pass on to the consumer. So if it doesn't get sorted, then district heating will stall. And I think the Scottish Government acknowledge that, and they are making progress.
Okay. Do you see an ESCO as being crucial to the development of district heating, such city as Glasgow?
No. I think an ESCO is a buzzword. I think everybody wants one in Scotland. Once you've got one, it's a bit of a badge that you can wear and say we've got an ESCO, but unless it's doing something meaningful, it's of little use. If district heating can work purely on a contractual basis between generator and consumer, that's fine. That works. If it's done by creation of multiple special purposes vehicles, then fine. If it's done through the creation of an ESCO, fine. ESCO is sustainability, it's resilience, it's a buzzword. People understand what it means. But ultimately, it's down to creating a business model that delivers what we said it would.
Okay, more questions? Okay, thanks for our speaker. And we jump from Glasgow to Rotterdam. Next speaker is Astrid Madsen, Program Manager for Energy Transition in City of Rotterdam. She has been working in City of Rotterdam since 2000. Now she is a Program Manager for Energy Towards Free CO2 Emissions. Please.
There we go. Thank you, everybody. I am the Program Manager Energy Transition, and let me just first start and make it a little bit smaller because the energy transition is huge and also is about mobility and other topics. So my focus is on the built environment and the way we heat up our houses. And the challenge we have in Rotterdam, 20% of our houses are connected to district heating. That means that 80% isn't. And most of those buildings are here now and will be in 2050. So in order to meet our goals, we need to do something about those houses. And something is, we have to insulate them, we have to reduce energy, and we have to connect them to something else than the current gas grid. And to make it a little bit more explicit, it's, if I start this year, in order to reach 2050, I need to change every year 8,000 houses, which is huge, and which we don't manage at this moment. So the challenge is big. The way we look at the challenge, we look at it by looking at it from a local perspective, which means we change the houses. We need to insulate them, connect them to another kind of energy structure, other than natural gas. And at the same time, on a regional level, we need to change the sources, because even if I have a house now connected to electricity, it's not CO2 free. It is fossil fuel that makes electricity. So the new energy systems we're going to use need to be connected with more sources with lower emissions. And the second thing is that the energy infrastructure as a whole needs to change, because we need to have the supply and exchange and conversion and buffering of all that energy flow. So that's a different kind of infrastructure than current infrastructure. And in the end, it has to add up to a clean, reliable, affordable energy. So back to the local level, what does it mean? Basically, we look at it from a perspective that how are you going to heat up your houses? Either you use middle or high temperature, being 70 degrees up to 100, 120 degrees, meaning you insulate your house and you connect it to district heating networks, or you have the transition towards low temperature. Then you have to insulate much more. And you connect to electricity grid using heat pumps. And then on a regional level, we have to work on a program of transforming towards more sources. We are working on a major district heating network or infrastructural network that brings the heat to the different cities and exchange the residual heat from the harbor and brings it to different towns. We already are connected to the waste incinerator in Rotterdam. But that's sort of a precondition if you look at the transition in the city itself. So if you look at the energy transition in the city, there are some questions we need to ask ourselves. So who needs to participate? What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? Where and when? And basically those are simple questions, but with a more complex answer. So what we started is the stakeholder involvement. We try to involve the people that are part of the solution, and we are doing really research to get answers on what is possible and how we're going to do it. And we are trying to map more or less the answers, so make it visible what we're going to do where. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about the pilot project we are doing at this moment. We have an area with about 1,100 houses, and we look at 4 dimensions. The technique, so what is possible and what is needed. We look at the financial consequences. We are looking at the social aspects. So what do people think? What do they want? What are the barriers for them to go into transition? And what are the other opportunities, like combining work with the sewer system maintenance, or maybe there are other challenges. So technically, what we did is we actually went to the houses. We went in, we looked Where's the boiler at this moment? What are the options? What if we want to make the house all electric? What do you need to do? We did energy scans. So we really went into detail and see what were the options. Then we translated it into the financial consequences. And what we did is we calculated for the whole area over a period of 40 years the total costs. The cost on buildings level, the cost on grid cost for both district heating, removing the gas grid, enforcing electrical heating, and we calculated the energy cost over 40 years, and we divided it over 40 years and over house. So you have an average cost per house per scenario, because we calculate different scenarios. We calculated what do you have at this moment. So that's the first. On the right, it's the current cost. So with gas, if you just do what you're already doing, the average cost total for the house, which is orange, the cost at grid level, that's the red, because you also have to have, you have some costs at grid level, even if you stick to gas, and the cost you pay for your energy bill. So the option 2 then is insulating your house, cost-efficient insulation, plus district heating. And the third option is insulating your house in all electric. So what you can see, and the fourth is partly all electric, partly district heating. And what you see in this area, district heating is the cheapest solution, looked at the total costs. So it's the total average costs of district heating is cheapest here. Socially, we talk to people and we ask about energy, and they're actually not that interested in energy because in the Netherlands energy is cheap. We don't have that much energy poverty. It's reliable. I think the electricity grid had a availability of 99.9954% or something, so there's not really a reason to complain about availability. And as for sustainability, we have a very low sustainable rate, so people don't feel that changing things at this moment will help them forward. They are not really knowledgeable about the options. They know a bit about district heating because we have a district heating system. They didn't know anything about all electric. But when we explained, they thought, well, that's actually quite fancy, so they sort of appealed to them. They all think it's going to be a lot of hassle. So they all were like, well, maybe you should start next street and not with my house. And they all thought, oh, it's going to cost a lot of money. So they were not saying, okay, let's come on and do it. And the opportunities, well, basically there are quite some opportunities. There's a combination of works. We can combine this area with sewer system replacement, so you have to change the street anyway. Economy of scale, we try to do 1,100 houses, more or less, in the same period. So we try to sort of gain profits out of that instead of having the transition being done per house. And the last synergy is an important one, because we think, and we ask people, what do you think about your neighborhood? And people were having problems, for example, with parking. Well, if you are changing that area anyway, maybe you can solve a parking problem. There were some people saying, well, I don't like the neighborhood that much anymore. People are not investing in their house if they're not sure they're going to live there. So maybe you should address some of those issues in order to make the whole area much nicer again. So we're trying to use maybe not energy transition as a reason, but as a way of moving and improving the neighborhood. So next, we have made the calculations. We agreed we're going to work out district heating options. And we are now trying to get to an aerial agreement with the stakeholders. Basically stating, okay, we all going to transform this area from gas heated based area towards a district heating area with insulating the houses and reconnecting them. Which obviously is a challenge, because having the best option, total cost, is not the same as having individually the best option. And that is, I think, the biggest challenge with the energy transition. It's the distribution of total cost and benefits. So our conclusion, and my conclusion, is that district heating is an essential part of the energy transition. What we did, and this map is still under construction, but basically the green areas are the areas where we say district heating is definitely going to play a big role in transition. The orange one, we're not sure yet. So it's parts will definitely be all electric and parts will be higher temperature anyway. The blue ones are all electric definitely, so that's already there. The reason why there's very little blue is that at this moment, transforming existing buildings, and I'm not talking about new buildings because that's a different kind of equation, but for existing buildings at this moment, the cost of insulating the house is 5 times higher than optimal installation. And that just does not weigh out to the cost of district heating. So district heating is important also in perspective of the distribution of energy, in balancing the system and making sure you have backup systems and even if it's cold and there's no wind and sun, you have still heat. So we think district heating is both on a local but also on a regional level an important thing. But there is a big if. And I think this is the important one. First of all, district heating is only going to work if the heat supply will transform towards low emission. So that's really where heat companies are play a big and important role, because at this moment, not all people are convinced that their heat is going to be low emission. So people are afraid to connect to district heating because they're afraid that in 20 years they're told to do something else. So if you want to have district heating as a serious option in energy transition, you have to be very clear and transparent about your transformation of your sources. You have to be trustworthy in that, and you have to show what you're going to do. The second if is that everybody needs to participate, because it's the cheapest solution, because you sort of combined all the costs and benefits. So it's only the cheapest solution if you are willing to participate and distribute the costs and benefits and cash in on those opportunities. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And the thing is, no way, in no area, I'm going to have a moment in time where every person is going to say, oh yes, today I want to change my boiler. Today I was going to renovate my kitchen. Today I was going to have a sewer system replacement. Today I was going to, replace my gas grid, because it was, I mean, it's not going to happen. So every piece of transition is going to end up with winners and losers. And only if you're willing to distribute the winners and the losers costs and benefits, you might be able to get the most optimal solution. But if everybody just waits for their individual optimal solution, we're going to have a worse case. So distributing the costs and benefits really is hugely important. And the last and also important one is we have to rethink and probably also change the way we have the governance of our energy system. Now we have electricity grids and the district heating and the gas grid as separate systems. They need to be much more integrated. We need to have much more integrated system, but also in distributing those costs. Because if I'm in an all-electric area and I have to reinforce my electricity grid, everybody pays for it. But if I'm in a district heating grid, I just paid for my neighbor's electricity grid and I have to pay for my district heating grid. And on top of that, district heating grids very often are in dense populated areas with social housing. So basically, people in social housing pay twice for the energy transition. That doesn't make sense. So we really need to rethink the governance and the financial structures of energy systems. And with that, of course, the rules and regulations. And finally, I mean, I think it has been said, we need financial arrangements, because having, on average, the cheapest solution, you still have high upfront costs. And the challenge is, how are we going to make it possible for people to make the high upfront cost in their houses, but also with organizations? Because it's nice to know that you earn it back, or you can have a certain amount earned back, but you need to have sort of fallback options, and you need to be able to finance it. So we're also working on that. So this was my conclusions. Yes, district heating, but there are some issues to be solved, and I think it is, well, the essence is basically the second point, is that everybody needs to participate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? Be more active. Participate, please. I want to ask you, what do you think? You calculated about insulation level. Maybe we can insulate buildings to 0 energy level and forget for 100 years. Is it a solution?
It's a solution, but the thing is that what we did is we looked at what does it cost to have sort of an optimal installation, so sort of the easy installation, and that was for the 1,100 houses added up, I think something about 4.5 million euros we had to invest just on the buildings, on insulation, to make it insulated enough to make it low temperature heating, so all electric heating. We needed to invest 22.5 million euros. So if we want to make it one step further and the cost rise exponentially, you have huge amounts, and people, well, first, people are not going to pay for it, and frankly, well, if I subsidize things, it's the people's money anyway. So it's really, we need to think about the most efficient way to do things. And I think the other thing is there's this sense of urgency. We cannot wait for better solutions. We need to start now, and maybe we have a huge gas grid distribution system, which was a good idea in the 50s, 60s, and now we have to get rid of it. So in 50 years, maybe we're going to have another discussion, another kind of energy system, which is okay, but we cannot afford to wait for 50 years. We have to do it now because it's already 8,000 houses a year, so getting a little stressed. So when we can't wait, so we have to do what's right now and makes common sense, and which we think will last long enough to earn itself back. And secondly, you only create innovations if you change. So if you sit back and say, I wait for the next innovation, but don't do anything and don't push people and are not making them a little bit uncomfortable, there's not going to be new development. So moving towards something new creates also new ideas. So maybe in 5 years, my answer is yes. But at this moment, the answer is no. We need another alternative.
You made a lot of calculations on district heating. Can we replicate this calculation for different countries in different climatic zones, different degree days, or just for your country?
Well, what we now did is, because there's also a sort of theoretical model which uses databases information, and we are comparing those two outcomes to see if we can sort of use the theoretical model to make a map of the city of what makes more sense to do. And there were, the outcome was more or less the same. The level of cost changed a bit, but it's, so we are trying to make it sort of a model that can be duplicated and used. But you do need to have some set of basic knowledge of your houses. But in Holland we have those data, so we can just put it into the model.
And what about low density districts? Have you calculated what is a limit?
Well, district heating makes more sense in high density areas for sure. So what we think is that the outskirts of the city will become all electric because that makes more sense. Having said that, that will be still a big issue and a big challenge under current market conditions. So even there you need to find economy of scale. So, but yeah, so we're focused now more on dense areas because it makes more sense.
Do you believe in district heating development?
Sorry, do I believe in?
Do you believe in district heating development in your city?
I think district heating, just if I look at the building stock in Rotterdam, we're not going to be able to insulate it in such a way that it can be electrical heated with current knowledge and heat pumps. So you need high temperature, middle and high temperature heating. And district heating is a way of bringing that heat to the houses. And I think the other thing is district heating is needed to balance the electricity grid and to overcome moments of having no energy and heat. So, yeah, I think it's important.
Thanks. We have one question.
Oh, sorry. You had as well.
Okay. Hello. Now, what I was wondering is, I understand the costs and that, but is there any calculations to talk about the macroeconomic benefits in terms of jobs and revenues, and because that somehow factors in, or is that a complex one, or even then it doesn't work up?
No, true. I mean, what we now did was really looking at the local costs and benefits, while there are obviously a lot more benefits. So we do look into that. I mean, we know that the transition, for example, will cost on a yearly basis about 200 million on insulating. So that is a lot of jobs. So we do some math and calculations on seeing what kind of benefits it brings. And jobs is one. The demand for innovative new companies is another one. Air quality, obviously, is one of the issues. Rotterdam doesn't have the best air quality, and just getting rid of the gas boilers does help about 10% of NOx emissions in areas. So yeah, we look at that, but we did not capitalize it in our business case. So it's a sort of extra benefit, but we did not use it as weighing which solution is best, because basically any solution would add up to a better air quality and jobs and so on. So, but it is in a political debate definitely on the table.
Hello, Rob Thornton, International District Energy Association. I'm from the United States, and maybe you're aware of this, but in the US we use PACE financing, property assessed clean energy financing. So instead of the homeowner having to, finance or purchase, the community provides a bonding capacity, and so the asset, which is a long life, like insulation or something, stays with the property. So it isn't in the mortgage. It isn't really due to the homeowner so much. It really is an improvement. So I don't know if you've looked at PACE financing as a vehicle to fund these.
I didn't know it. Interesting to know, so I know where to look, and I know also the proper English word now. That's good, because I would have translated as instead of having a personal loan, a buildings loan. Yes, in Holland we are doing research on those building-based loans, so it's connected to the building, not to the person. However, it's not there yet, so it might be interesting to know about that, definitely. Yeah, because it is on the table, even on national level. It's one of the thoughts that might help forward. Yeah.
We have one more question.
Thank you for an interesting piece. Two comments. The first, and I completely understand why you said it, but you said that the heat pumps couldn't get to high enough temperature. I assume you're meaning small domestic units. I think the heat pump industry has performed very badly in its innovation piece. They've listened to the market base saying heat pumps are too expensive, and so they've tried to make them cheaper. Actually, they should have made them more expensive and gone for cascade technology to get to higher temperatures. And that's now beginning to happen. Probably only started 3 years ago or so. So I think there are now smaller heat pumps that can get to higher temperatures to allow retrofit. So technology is moving. The second point, the gentleman from the IDA sparked an interesting thought about the funding. There's been some business models in Denmark and Austria where the utility company are paying for the improvements. For example, the installation of a domestic heat pump, and that improvement stays with the property, just as the gentleman said, but the homeowner basically then has the choice of reducing their fuel bills or not reducing their fuel bills. That's a much easier decision to make.
No, on the second one, I totally agree. So that's one of the biggest challenges. As for the heat pumps, yes, maybe what good is to know is that we're mapping also the city of when are we going to do things. And we're going to make a map of the areas that are going to in transition on a short term or relatively short term within 3 to 5 years. And basically what we're planning to do actually is to make those areas that are not into transition for the next 10, 15 years, not be very explicit about the solution that we think, because we think that the calculation we make today will be outdated by that time. So the what kind of high-low temperature solution we're going to make more explicit for the shorter term and less explicit for the longer term, because we think those kind of developments will be available. And but I do still think if we would switch to all electric heating for the whole country, we have a different kind of problem. So even if it's on a buildings level makes sense, I think still you need district heating on a national level to have a balanced energy system. Because I mean, we are planning to have 5 big wind parks at sea. On average, they're going to have enough electricity to that's equal to 10% of our current gas use, only 10%. So, or 80% of our electricity use, so that's good, but you can't use them twice. So yes, I think it's good to keep in mind, and we are looking at the change, but it's a double decision. What's best at buildings levels, and what can you do at an energy mix level?
Thank you, Astrid.
Thank you.
And we jump from Rotterdam to Nantes. Virgin Thun is from Nantes and is head of energy department. Nantes is known in France as one of the most willing cities in terms of energy transition, with a local, national and international commitment. Nantes has developed for several years climate and energy policy with ambitious goals and actions in many fields, from housing, local transport, waste, and of course energy. So Virgin will focus on the development of heating networks that existed historically in a little district, and politicians decided to expand it very quickly and widely with very clear strategy, and Virgin will explain it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, hello. First, I'm very glad to be here to represent Nantes, so I thank Euroheat and Power to invite us. First, I will present Nantes. What is Nantes? So I work for Nantes Métropole. It is a local authority with the city of Nantes and 23 surrounding cities. It's about 600,000 inhabitants, so it is one of the largest conurbations of France. And we are waiting for 100,000 inhabitants more by 2030, so it's quite dynamic. And we have politicians who decided that energy and climate are important topics. That's why a climate and energy policy has been developed for 10 years now, and we can notice a real international commitment because we signed the Covenant of Mayors. We were a European Green Capital in 2030. And we organized also the first climate change, which was after the COP21, the first worldwide non-governmental organization summit to prepare the next COP. So in a few figures, just one thing to say is that we produce a small part of the energy we consume. It is about 5% of our consumption that is produced on our territory, on renewable or reused energy. So it's nothing. We have a lot to do. And we have fixed CO2 objectives, as other territories, of course. So to aim the factor 4, we have decided to reduce by 30% by 2020 per inhabitant and 50% by 2030 the CO2 emissions per inhabitant. We have also objectives of local production of renewable energy, because we quantify our resources, and so we have a limited potential as many urban territories. We can't produce more than 20% of our current consumption of our territory. That is to say, we have to, of course, work on reduction of consumption, but also to relocate the production of energy. And so we have objectives, but we have to develop a mix of solutions, because Nantes has a climate, has a temperate climate. So we are at a crossroad between a lot of solutions. District heating, for instance, that are more developed in northern or eastern European countries, and southern solutions, for instance, like solar or others. And that's why, to work on that, we have integrated a wide range of legal responsibilities to do it in France. So that is to say, we have responsibilities in production and delivery, in electricity, gas, and heat, but also on local transport, waste, housing, and urban development that are the real levers to reduce consumptions. So that's why we can really make an energy planning, working on the supply of our buses, working on building retrofitting with a special team that is dedicated to help owners to do that, and with a lot of actions. For instance, we've got a solo plan, and this solo plan is constituted of very different type of actions. For instance, this solo platform to help people to identify their potential, the potential of their roofs, because in our cities we have a real wealth, it is our roofs, and so we want non-roofs useful. So we developed this kind of project with universities and laboratories and the National Geographic Institute, for instance, but also we work for developing local electricity production with solar production, and for instance with the big solar centrals. In 2018, we will, for instance, develop more than 80,000 square meters for that. So in this general energy planning, I want to focus on one action that is very important for us. It is, of course, the development of renewable heating networks. It's a major lever for our action. As you can see, until 2011, there were about 9,000 households connected to district heating. And in 2015, we are about more than 20,000, and in 2020, it will be more than 30,000, exactly 35 or 36,000. So there is a big increase. And in France, we are one of the most involved cities in this development, because we are a bit late in general in France about district heating. So there are a new national act, the Energy Transition for Green Growth Act in 2015, that will help and that will fix objectives to help district heating. So the objective is to multiply by 5, for instance, the renewable energy delivered by heating and cooling networks. So in Nantes, we have decided to develop, but not in a random way. There are a lot of conditions to develop this network. First, we had a little one, an historical district, historical network in a little district, which was supplied with waste, gas and fuel. And so politicians have decided to expand it very quickly with this condition. First, it has to be renewable energies. For all our new contracts, we set 80% of renewable energy as a condition. Second, the price is very important for us. So we only develop networks with a price equal or lower than gas. That is the classical alternative in France for our buildings. Then we also only develop main infrastructures, biggest networks for the city. But we also help, as I will say, we help also smaller networks with all other honors that municipalities. And the last thing is that we don't oblige people to connect to our networks. We think that we have to build together the project, and so they will find the benefits, and so we don't want to oblige them. So just one figure interesting here is that in 6 or 7 years, the big increase of our district heating represents more than 120 million euros spent on our territory. So it means, of course, employment and activities, and it's very interesting for us because it's a way to develop local employment, and so to get back money of energy. In Nantes, our politicians pay a lot of attention to social issues, and so as we know, energy prices are very volatile and they are rising. So that's why we want a controlled price to reduce energy bills for users. And I have to say that in France, except our non-pricing, we have also reduced VAT if district heating is supplied with renewable energies more than 50%, and we have also national funds. So it is a great help for us. I also want to explain that we work with different public service delegation contracts and different operators. So we have different contracts that allow us finally to find the best practices of all operators. And so it is a way for us to improve our contracts and always for the benefit of users. So it's policy that is that we can find in Nantes, also in other fields like water, for instance, different kind of delegations. What is important to say also is that if you look at the figures today, we have 6 heating networks, and so I will not explain everything. We're in general in Nantes, we had historically a high rate of renewable energies. As I said, it's about 73%, mainly with waste and wood. And tomorrow, so by 2020, we will keep on having a huge part of renewable energy with 75%, although the district heating will be more important than 10 years ago. So it's a real challenge for us. And in the same time, as I say, a social issue is important for us. So there will be 50% of social housing in the city of Nantes that will be connected through our district heating. So it's an important thing for us. And you see that we go quickly with them. We work together with social housing to achieve this thing. So I want just to say that we study, of course, our potential, so we have decided to develop new infrastructures, but we also support private stakeholders projects, such as some private owners association that want to develop little district heating. And so we help them for engineering, for instance, to allow the projects to emerge. So we have 2 or 3 like that in Nantes. And sometimes people ask us, but what is really your job, the role of our local authority? So, of course, during all the public service, we have to define strategy, pricing, we have to control operators, but we also have to keep the dialogue with the users. So we install committees of users to that. And especially during development, we really want to be a partner. We work in a partnership with our operators because it's difficult when you build so many networks in some years in a very quick way. It's difficult to coordinate all works, and we have to be very careful about communication also, about users and subscribers, but also about all people that are affected by major works. So to finish, I want to say that as I explained, the district heating is part of our strategy. And so we quantify the level of emissions. For the moment, at the present time, the trend is good because it is our real emissions level. And in the pink part is all that we have planned on a local level, but also with the national actions. But the gray part is all that we have to think and to find to aim to reach our objectives. So we have to think the unthinkable, I remember, yesterday. So to think the unthinkable, we have decided to work all the more with inhabitants and stakeholders. That's why we launched a great debate. It's a great debate on energy transition to collect other points of view and other practices to really go further. The idea is to lead to a real shared roadmap with all stakeholders, not only the municipality that has decided to launch a project and another one, but everybody that really want to commit in energy transition with us. So we experimented a lot of things during these 6 months. There will be actions of crowdfunding, for instance, for some projects, and we hope that in these next years, a lot of innovative solutions will emerge to really achieve the energy transition. So, as a conclusion, because my time is already passed, we are candidate to welcome the next, our next Euroheat and Power Congress, and we will be really delighted to show you in 2 years all that we have done and all that I hope we will do in the next 2 years and of course in a lot of years. Thank you.
Do you have any questions? Yes.
Oh, sorry, yes, I don't understand.
We should be going a bit lower, not at the back of the...
Apologies, I just wanted to get fit. No, you're already fit, I'm sure. What response did you get to the Great Debate?
Our responsibility in the Great Debate? Yeah?
Response from the participants. Did you get a good response from the participants?
Yes, a very good response, because there were more than 50,000 people that really act in the Great Debate, and especially 10,000 very involved in different communities. So they write some recommendations, or they try some things. And so we created communities to experiment, to crowdfunding, or we had also a community on full poverty. And we have decided to change the way of doing. We have decided to, we say, to give the keys, I don't know, so we have decided to say that 4 inhabitants, not politicians, 4 inhabitants are the real leader of the Great Debate. These inhabitants followed everything. They really write what they wanted to do, and this report will help politicians to build the roadmap with everyone. So yes, it worked very, very well.
More questions?
Thank you. Martin Hayek, Czech District Heating Association. My question is, in France, you are quite increasing CO2 tax. My question is, does it help to develop district heating, especially in Nantes, or is it more as obstacle, or what's your view on the CO2 tax from your industry perspective?
Sorry, I didn't. Can you repeat slowly?
CO2 tax. What's your view on it? Does the CO2 tax in France help develop district heating?
Our taxes, no?
CO2 tax. Carbon tax.
Taxes on CO2 emissions. Is it good or bad?
Sorry.
La taxe carbone. Voilà.
Merci. Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm not sure in speaking English in my job. So, well, we need it because for the moment, as I say, we don't force. We want. It's a real politician willing. We don't want to force people to connect to district heating, and so for the moment, the gas is very low. And it's difficult for us, and in general in France, to develop new projects. So I think that there will be new taxes on gas, for instance, that will increase. So I think it's a good thing. So as you say, the CO2 tax has to be developed more. So we will wait. We have a new president for some days. And so we are waiting for its action, of course, to increase the CO2 tax, because for the moment it's not enough to help the development of renewable district heating. It's difficult.
More questions? Thanks. And we jump from Nantes to Dresden. Next, our speaker will be Harold Rapp. I know that your career stepped from engineer in German Lufthansa airport. I don't know, very good, big company. Why you left that company? Maybe you discovered that planes are heated from waste heat from engines, and there is nothing what to do else.
Yes, I know very well what I was to do, and to go to this great family of district heating.
Okay, so board is yours. please take.
No, I need it also. Sorry? I need it also. So, hello, everyone. Oh, just wait, just wait, just wait. I have some question to you. I will coming to you. Just wait. So, good one to everybody. Ladies, gentlemen, join me with a trip now to Germany, to the Free State of Saxony, to Dresden. Dresden, it's a good city, a new city, with universities, the best universities in Saxony for district heating. It's also a young city for the students, startup cities. It's known as Silicon Valley in Germany. So follow it with me. And now you see I have changed my presentation since yesterday. I am learning. So maybe you are learning too now. What we are going on, maybe 1 or 2 points, take it with you like I do it from David yesterday. So, my name is Harald Rapp from HEFW, you know it. I'm energy and urban development expert. I'm also for the ministry in Saxony, the founding inspector. And you know it, what I'm doing here, I'm a local political. So I can imagine both sides. And all the impacts for both sides, for the energy sector and for the city level of the political side. So what are our customers in HEFW? As I learned yesterday, you must know it. It's our local municipalities in Germany, but all over Europe. We have sitting here some. We have our ministry and parliament. We are experts for them. We are instructors for that. And our planners and the cities are also our customers with our ideas, with our expectations. What is a product I talk here from it? It's a product for national regulations. It's our rules which we have, which they take them into the laws, into their own regulations. And what we heard from our other speakers, it's our integrated concepts, what we called integrated energy concept to reduce CO2 and put it in the urban development in the cities. Our team, as I learned yesterday, you must know it, it's Mr. Lutsch. It's one part of this team. You know him very well as the president. It's also Boris Lubinsky there. And it's more than 500 utilities and manufacturers with more than 2,000 experts in working groups, in over 50, 16 working groups we have together. And for this we work it out, and this is the experience is coming back to our products which we have. So what's the first pain I know? The first pain in the urban development, in the efficiency urban development in our city, is we have no common language. Or do you think we have a lot common language? What do you think? Do you think we have a lot common language? So I'm coming now a little bit downstairs. So it's a little bit interesting more than for you. What do you think? We have a common language between the city, the politicians, the municipalities, the energy side? Have you the common language? What do you think? No response? No, I heard. Who do you think? Hands up. Who think we have a common language between it? Who think we have no common language? It's 90%. Over 90%, I think. And this is real. So what must we do? We know it in Germany. The former president of the United States say it to Mr. Gorbachev. What he said?
Tear down this wall.
Thank you. Yes, we must tear down this wall, that we are doing our job very well. Tear it down, because how they know the urban development planner, what we do. Do you know what was in your flat last year? Your heat need in the end energy? How many kilowatt hours? You know that? Who know it? Hands up. It will be silly when I doesn't know it, I know. No, it's realistic. I have talked it also here. This is one of my expectations. When you're going home and look at your bill, how many energy you use in your flat. This is the first step for it. Because over 90% of all the persons doesn't know how many energy they used in their flats. This is one of the common language. Tear down this wall. It's very important. So, but what can we do in the development first? We must build it to our city and interface. Working groups, how we target. Because we have one main impact at there. It's a timetable. The urban development and the municipalities working on in their plans for more than 10 years, 15 years, and make then their decisions with the politicals. And then they go to the local energy municipalities and said, okay, can we do this? So you have a chance, not more than 10% to change this plan. But you must start up in the first 2 or 3 years for it. And when we get this chance, so you can say, okay, this should be district heating, or this should be renewables, or here more insulation. And then all the master plans are going on. But you must have this timetable in these working groups put together with the concept side of the municipalities and the architecture side. Very, very important. Believe me. Because we make the decision in the city of the political side very early before we looked at the infrastructure side. It's realistic. And put the solution to the federal states in Germany, but what you have also in your country. So we must put it here at this point in this, what we called in Saxony, the urban development strategy, in a development. To put it in the cities concentrating. We must have all livings for young and old people. It's a demographic value for it. Do you know, next question, what the difference between the energy using of an older guy and a younger guy? What's the difference is? Who knows it? You believe it? To know it? You believe to know it, but we can believe Sunday morning in the church. We are energy experts, we have to know it. We have to know it very well. So, and for this, I know it in 3 cities in Saxony. We know that per every year, 10 kilowatt hours, one age is more energy used in his flat per square meter. This is what we knew. So in the solution of the strategy is the innovative energy concept have priority. This is very important in the state, because then all the grants is going there. So the second solution then for it is that in this integrated urban development, we get project concentration for the social impacts, for the impacts for the housing area, and for the infrastructure. To put it together in one, what we call district. And you know, we are district energy here, and district heating, so it's very good to have this point of view for us in this concentration. Well, is this pain also for you? No money, economic side of district heating? Because I'm coming up to you now. So how we can finance our project if it's not in an economic way? What do you do with your projects? Some solutions? You don't do it? Or how financing you? No? What are you doing with your projects? What do you think in the United Kingdom?
What, for district heating?
Yeah, for district heating. If it's not in an economic way, what you are doing? Nothing?
Wait, not in an economic... Oh, well...
When it's not economic to do a project in district heating. You don't do it, okay? This is one solution. Not mine. because we have some funding for it. We have grants, national grants. If you see it on the bottom, we have a German urban development funding program, and we have the German CHP law. But you have also, in the EU, a funding called the European Regional Development Fund. And reduced CO2 emissions is on the focus there. So you can use it. You can use these grants for it. And we do it. What is the second B solution? What do you think? I ask here, this guy. For me, too political to say, okay, I give grants or something to do it.
Develop business models that self-finance such projects.
Okay, maybe. It's the added value. You ask for it. We have added value in 3 points at this point. We have the first added value when you do the investment. Concepts, planner, builders. About local taxes, which we have. The first one. The second one is when you operate it 20 years. You have employments, you have operating, and the third one is jobs. You create jobs. And I talked to Rob in the lunch, and we said, I'm also political. Every job is 5 votes. I think in votes. I want to have votes because a re-election is in 4 years, in 2 years, in 3 years. So you must think it and give it to your local policy to say, okay, what we do in district heating, create jobs, and you see it here because we're doing in every grant. We have the value, what the added value are for this project. How many from €1 are in the customer's pay, which the customers pay, are the municipal utility keeps it for it. It's very important. Here we have 80 cents. Per oil, you see, we have 5 or 6 cents. Most of the money is going outside the municipality. And the next one is that the European regulations you have. This is the third pane. Fair rules. You must have fair rules between all the cities in Germany. And to have fair rules, because you have some directives there. You have directives and regulation. There are laws inside. And everybody must handle it with it. But how to do it? It's very complicated, as you know. The EU directives and to handle it out with our national laws. And for this, we make a solution, and you see here the ministry solution at this point. So I'm going now up, is that we make worksheets for it, how to calculate it, because we are doing one thing at this point. We are calculate the funding gap. It's not the economic gap, it's a funding gap. It's a little bit other view that you earn money with your job, with your business, and when you do your business and the state said, okay, CO2 reduction is in our focus, what is the money you needed for this investment to do this, what your state, what the policy wants to do? And this is what we calculated at this point. So the solution, and it's unique what we are doing, is what we are doing to make it in rules, in national rules from HEFW, with our objective and transparent in an effective procedure. It takes the amount of the unprofitable cost, and we calculate also the CO2 emission. You learned maybe from Mr. Lubinski in the morning that we have several calculation programs, and we use the efficiency criteria for district heating systems and for the CHP systems in our rules. Fourth pane, we learned yesterday. Also here in front. Digitization for district heating systems. But how? How we can do it? We have a lot of solutions seen in the exhibition sometimes. Everybody has it in your mind. We do it in approval now for 8 cities with 12 districts in the cities with our R&D project. There's a housing station. There's inside, because you have, when you looked on the urban development side, you have also here on the right side, the urban design, the demography, also tariff systems, which you have to bring it together also on the energy side, on the energy infrastructure side, with low excrets, solar heat, and the CHP. So the introduction is for us here in the customer traction. We have the best practice examples in Saxony, here with 26 districtions from 23 cities, which has a budget for more than 180 million for the urban development, half of this for the district heating. And in the focus of the projects are the CO2 emissions in this city, concentrated districts. And the regulation is our working rules, so-called FW 703. You find here some paper to them if you are interested. Because, so here you see the cities in Saxony which get this, and there's a lot. And there's a lot of added value for this state. And it's very in the focus of our politics. And you see it here in Dresden. This is the last thing what I show you from Dresden, is which district here we invest more than 20 million euros for the district heating development in the city and for the future. Also in other cities, as you see here in Chemnitz, this is real. It was built up last year. Solar, about over 2,000 square meter. Heat storage, cooling storage, solar storage. Low excrete for over 250 buildings in this district. Also in Thuringia, we have there also over 20 projects with 50 million of funding and action. What I need help from you is to bring this concentration, urban development thinking to the policy to Brussels. Thank you very much. I invite you to the next conference with IGFW and Euroheat and the 17th to 19th April to Frankfurt. Thank you for your interest. You will see here why I'm doing this, because this is in my both hands. This is why I do this. Thank you very much. See you in Frankfurt. Bye.
Thank you. I wonder how you manage your speaker time, because we have a clock here, 15 minutes, and you was walking and returned exact 1 minute before and finished in time. Okay, do you have any questions from audience? Okay, I would like to ask, why is a uniform language from urban planners and energy experts is needed? Can you prove once more?
Yeah, they must understand us. Because when we are too late, we have no chance to bring our business to the city. Because then we can't do any decision furthermore. We can react, but we must act before with the best technical and economic solution. And for this, they must understand us, and we must understand the municipality planners.
Do we need technical economic rules for EFRD fund for district heating development?
Clear answer, yes. Because these are foundings, and when you get checked out, you must pay it back when you are not in the rules.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for our speakers. And I would like to thank audience, and please please go to exhibition hall, and here you can find farewell drinks and take and have a good time. Thank you once more.